Right, hack number one is no. No, come. Hi everyone, Adam Morgan here, architect and founder of Studio RBA. And today what we're going to talk about are some tips and tricks just to make your life that bit easier. Because let's be honest, architecture is hard enough. So let's get straight into it. Hack number one is sleep. There's too many messages out there now about the hustle and doing 18-hour days and stuff like that. It's ridiculous. As a creative and particularly as an architect, we deal with some really tricky things, and to not have much sleep at all, it doesn't allow you to function properly. So my first tip is to make sure you're getting a minimum of 8 hours. We here at RBA, our working hours are actually 10 till 6 as opposed to a 9 to 5, because we do believe that just that little extra hour in bed it just has you firing on all cylinders. And sometimes you've got to deal with some really complicated stuff, and if you're not well rested, you're not going to do the best job possible. So that's number one. Hack number two is the use of precedents. Now, I should say straight away that I'm by no means suggesting that you plagiarise. As architects and designers, we should always be pushing for new ideas, new technology, and things like that. But what I'm getting at is there's no harm in taking inspiration from the greats. You'll probably notice on our Instagram page that I'm a big fan of Mies van der Rohe. He's becoming the backdrop of a few of our announcements, and I just love his clean lines, his very deliberate architectural moves. And yeah, I always get very inspired by him and other greats, the likes of, again, David Chipperfield. Very simplistic architecture, but it's so powerful. So I suppose just to get into the precedent and how I use a precedent, I always make sure I've got an idea first. I always make sure that I'm working to the site. My process is always to look at the site first, if there's an existing building particularly. Always make sure that you're working to that existing building, whether you're trying to complement or contrast, and try and generate that vision. And then from that vision, I will then jump onto the likes of Pinterest, just to either reaffirm my vision or just to add to it. Sometimes when you see how others have executed similar ideas, it does give you that bit of inspiration. And the reason I touch on Pinterest is because when you click on one example that you like, it then gives you a list of many other similar examples. So it's a very powerful tool when you've selected the one that you like, and it gives you so many other examples. It really focuses your search, and it gives clients a very clear idea of where you're taking a design. Sometimes you don't want to overcommit. If it's an ambitious design you've got in mind, try to use those precedents early on to just guide the client into sort of jumping on your bandwagon, if you like, with where you're trying to take the scheme. As I say, those examples that Pinterest give you it's very useful. And another tip on the use of precedents is I would suggest that you use less precedents and get under the skin of each of those. Don't use too many precedents because it becomes very superficial then, and it does just become about the visual. When you're using a precedent, you should really study it and figure out how the architect has arrived at that design, and then you can pick up clues from that to improve your own designs, obviously. And the reason why I want to sort of introduce the idea of precedents is because I believe, as architects and designers, the creation of an idea, of a scheme from a blank canvas, I think it's the most difficult thing that we do. Hack number three is the art of listening. I've sat in many meetings with other architects or my seniors, or people like that, even other professions, engineers and whatever, where they just don't listen. They've got their own agendas and they just want to adhere to that. What I would say is the best architects, and where I'm finding success, is the ability to listen and transcribe that into a design that the client wants. Again, I've seen it so often where an architect would hijack a meeting take over the design process and really ram a design down a client's throat. I would just say, there's so many elitist architects out there. It's time for for us to just be humble, listen to what the client wants, and just deliver what the client wants to the best of your ability. Obviously, you can give them suggestions along the way. I advise that, but at the end of the day, they're the clients. 9 times out of 10, they do know what they want. So my advice would be to just listen carefully to what they want and do your absolute best to deliver that. Number 4 is keep it simple. I went through a spell, I must admit, when I was starting out, to try and show off how intelligent I was and mix as many ideas as possible as I could. And by the end of it, your designs are a mess, and you just get nowhere with it. And again, another really good piece of advice I've picked up along the way is make sure that your designs know what they are, and that is born from simplicity. If you just keep your designs simple, make sure that there's 1 or 2 messages in there. Don't go mad with different styles and choices of materials. Keep it simple, and you'll be keeping your proposals very effective. Hack number 5 is Photoshop. If you're not using Photoshop, then you're already miles behind the competition. It's such a powerful tool. I use it for a lot of things. It's the one program I couldn't do without. Whether it's drawing red line boundaries around sites, or trying to demonstrate some ideas through the use of graphics and things like that. Obviously, post-producing visualizations, even when you extract SketchUp images, you can really clean it up in Photoshop. So if you're not using Photoshop, I would 100% recommend you get Photoshop. The licenses are very reasonably priced now, and obviously there's the student offerings. And if you are a Photoshop user, I would just say just continue to use it, keep looking at tutorials, keep exploring how you can present your ideas using the medium of Photoshop. It's just an incredible tool. Number 6 is cut the bullshit, basically. I've done it myself, I've got to admit, I've been guilty of it, where you're just trying to show off a little bit. You try and show how clever you are, how many degrees you've got, and it just doesn't go down well. The more humble that you stay in meetings, the more respect you'll actually gain. So that'll give you that more attention, and it'll actually give you that bit more control over the clients as well. If you're coming in trying to be that elitist architect, it'll just win you no favors. So just really just keep it simple. There's no need for all the lingo. Just keep it simple. And another one as well, just on the same sort of topic, is don't be afraid to tell people, even in the environment of a meeting, don't be afraid to tell someone that you don't know something. It actually shows confidence, but also it's so short-sighted. I've been in meetings. I mean, there was a point when I didn't know what the abbreviation M&E meant, and I just stopped the meeting and just said, sorry, what does that mean? Because it only benefits you in the long run. So just don't be shy of admitting that you don't know something, and yeah, just cut the bollocks. This next one, number 7, you'll have seen a post on this a few days ago about being helpful. One thing that I experience just too much of are other consultants who are just not willing to help unless it involves a fee, and I just think that's just a terrible attitude, very short-sighted. But what I would say was, just make sure that you are nice at all times. I know sometimes it's frustrating when clients are making changes left, right and centre. Just try and stay nice and remain helpful as well. If another consultant just needs a bit of advice and it's for free, just go for it. There'll be long-term benefits to that. But in the short term, you're making these friends along the way. The more friends you've got in the industry, the easier life will become. Particularly when it comes down to contractors. If you've got a few contractors that you're getting pally with, it'll only benefit you when jobs are hitting site. They'll be less keen to point the finger when there's a mistake. I've had it before where I've pissed builders off because I've tried to turn up on the bounce and thinking I was the big architect, and lo and behold, I made a mistake and they pretty much broadcast it. Whereas I learned from that, and there are other jobs now where I can recommend my own builders or my own contacts, And when it hits site, and if there's a snag, and as I say, you're nice enough with them, if there's a little snag, they'll contact you directly, and the client will be none the wiser basically. And you can, but more importantly, for the benefit of the project, you and the builder getting on, it'll just streamline the whole process when a job's on site, and it'll only benefit the build. Number 8 is SketchUp. It wouldn't be an RBA sort of post, if you like, if we didn't mention SketchUp. For me, it sits alongside Photoshop as the most powerful tool we have available to us. Obviously, we've got CAD, and I do appreciate we are in an age where Revit is becoming more popular. I'm just picking up Revit at the moment, I must admit. The thing that Revit lacks that SketchUp has got is that intuition. You can, with SketchUp, you can really create shapes and forms very quickly. You can mold those forms as if it was like clay or something. It's it's such a powerful tool, and as I say, it's so quick and intuitive. You can really draft ideas, after a few clicks, and you can bring your clients in at an early stage to give them a sense of where the design's headed. And another thing that I don't think a lot of people do with SketchUp is use it as a tool to figure things out. So I've provided a clip in this video just after this hack, which will show how I use SketchUp to design stairs. I am rubbish at figuring stairs out, whether by hand or on CAD. So what I do is I actually model one step, and just consult the building regs and check the riser and the tread, get a feel of where I want it to be, and then I will model one step, create a component of it, and then copy it up. And then if that staircase isn't hitting the right floor height, I can just scale it to suit. And when I've scaled it to suit, I know then that me riser and me tread are the right size, but I can also start to bring in some 3D people as well within SketchUp, just to make sure no one's banging their head, especially if you've got multiple flights of stairs. So again, SketchUp is just an incredibly powerful tool. Obviously, we're doing SketchUp tutorials as well, so keep an eye out for them. But there are so many out there as well. Just make sure that you're using SketchUp to its full capability. Something I kind of go around saying is, if someone says that SketchUp isn't a very good piece of software, it means that they just don't use it properly. Number 9 is speed and efficiency. In our line of work particularly, obviously we've got tons of clients banging the door down for the drawings yesterday, particularly when things are hitting site. Obviously you've got contractors who want as much information in front of them, so that it makes the build more efficient for them, which is understandable, to be fair. So for this hack, if you like, I just want to sort of tell you guys that being as quick as possible is massive for being a successful architect. Now, I used to be terrible for rushing around. I used to try and impress my employers by look how quickly I've produced this, but it was littered with mistakes. So please don't confuse speed for rushing around and making loads of errors, because that'll only cause headaches later down the line. What I mean is the more streamlined you can create your design process and your drawing production process, the more resolved you can make your schemes. So what I've learned from inherently being quite quick, but as I say, rushing, what I've learned from that is I'm still quick to arrive at design, still quick to produce my drawings, the sheets, all sorts of stuff. But then what I do is I buy myself the breathing space to resolve what I have then in front of me. So when I've got the scheme in skeletal form, I will then use 3 or 4 days to just sit back, take a breather, maybe print off my drawings and stuff like that, and then just go through it and really refine, really resolve the scheme. And I touched on sort of efficiency as well. We'll get onto that in the next couple of hacks actually. But the more efficient you become in your processes, the quicker you become as well, which ultimately gives you that breathing space to refine what it is that you want to refine, basically the creative process. Hack number 10 is don't do the same thing twice. Now what I mean by that is, if you're doing a mundane task, and the cliches are obviously door schedules and toilet layouts and stuff, when you're doing them for the first time, be sure to create, you know, a template of these things. Make sure that they're as accurate as possible. Spend the time on your first one. Make sure you're creating that sort of template out of it, and then save that off. Save a copy off. So for the next, when you're revisiting those same, you know, mundane tasks, the repetitive tasks, you'll really streamline it. So what may have took you a few days the first time round will only take you a matter of hours as you go along, because you're creating this library in the background. So with that mentality, you know, I'd say I've been practicing for over 10 years, so I've been creating this library probably for the past 5 or 6. So we've now got a library full of just, you know, CAD cells on toilets and sink sizes and you know, bathroom layouts and kitchen layouts and doors and windows and all sorts of stuff. So as I say, just create those templates, create those libraries right now. You know, start right now. You know, when you go back to work on Monday, or you know, you're doing a nighter tonight when you're at uni, you know, doing your coursework or whatever. Start to create those libraries, and you're downloading from 3D Warehouse, for example, for SketchUp. Make sure you're downloading it and you're filing it away properly, because you will need it again. If you need it now, you'll need it again. So as I say, you're not doing the same task twice, particularly the mundane stuff. One final point I want to touch on with this in mind is, when you streamline the mundane tasks, it actually frees you up to do the more creative tasks. We want to be spending more time on the design, the blank canvas, the sketches, the, you know, getting the clients excited, the presentations and stuff. We want to be focused on that sort of stuff. Let's be honest, we don't want to be sat drawing toilets for the rest of our lives. So, you know, as I say, save those libraries off, save those CAD blocks, 3D Warehouse downloads, that sort of stuff. Create this library in the background, and it'll only benefit you for the future. Number 11, again, sort of relates to speed and efficiency and what have you. And it's understanding if something feels like it's taken too long, then you're probably doing it wrong, basically. Again, you do see it with the graduates and stuff who've only got a basic knowledge of certain software, whether it's AutoCAD or SketchUp or what have you. What you see them doing is they're just stuck in what they know. So they're not using the right tools. For example, they're not using like trim tools in AutoCAD, or they're not using components in SketchUp. And what my advice for this hack, if you like, is take the time in understanding particularly the software that's in front of you, and take the time to understand, you know, how you can make your drawing process or the modeling process just a bit more, you know, simple for you. You know, as I say, as an example in SketchUp is, if you've got a very repetitive building and it's all the same window, well, once upon a time I would have just, you know, put all those windows in one group, and if there was a change I would have had to edit every single one. Whereas if you create a component or an instance of that first window, you're only making a change to one window then, and you're obviously editing the whole building, and you know, very, very quickly. And that type of philosophy, that component, the instance, every, you know, piece of kit that an architect uses, that kind of method, it does exist in every piece of software. So I would say just take the time to understand what's in front of you, and just make sure that you're making that drawing process more efficient. And as I say, the core of this hack is, if you're sat there and you're doing a task that feels like it's going to take hours, take a step back, do a Google search, and just see if there's a quicker way. Number 12, nearly there, is lists. Now, this relates to absolutely everyone who's a designer, to be honest. We've always got so much on our plate, and I've got to admit now, particularly in setting up full time. I mean, we're only about, I think, 14, 15 weeks old as a firm, and I've got to-do lists coming out my ears basically, and you know, I just need them. Otherwise, I would just forget, whether it's replying to an email or, you know, just finishing off, you know, a building regs pack or something like that. You just need a good to-do list, and what I would recommend is just crack open Microsoft Word or something like that, or a notepad, and just do a list maybe for the week, and then print that off and just strike through it and try and put it in order of difficulty as well. What I try and do is at the start of the week, when I'm a bit fresher, I'll do the more difficult tasks at the start of the week, and then get to the easier ones as you get closer to Friday. And what it does is, when you've got a list in front of you and you find that you're striking things off, it just gets rid of that anxiety. I'm terrible for having that bit of anxiety where almost like being overwhelmed at the amount of tasks that are in front of you. So when you've got a list and you're crossing things off, just gives you that confidence that you are completing all the tasks that are ahead of you, particularly for that week. And one final little extra sort of mention on this one is, in my situation, where I say you're a really small business and you're trying to take on pretty much everything, from YouTube to all the way down to designing the website or whatever. It try and organise your days into projects as well. So we've got 3 or 4 big projects on, and about 5 or 6 little ones. So what I try and do is, I'll try and put a big one and a little project in each day, just to make sure, again, just gives you that focus and just alleviates that sense of anxiety and feeling overwhelmed with just the million and one things you've got to do that week. Number 13 is simply, there's no better form of networking than doing a good job. Now what I mean by that is, obviously, as you get more senior, maybe in your firm, or if you do find yourself lucky enough to set up your own practice, which I'd recommend, by the way, if you find yourself in those sorts of positions where you're going to these networking events, they are brilliant. I mean, you do meet some real decision makers at those events, but at the end of the day, if you're not doing a good job, you'll never get a repeat client. And obviously, on the back of doing a great job, your clients will be doing the networking for you. They'll be getting that message out there. So at the moment, I've got to admit, I am struggling to get to networking events and things, because I've got so much on my plate. But I am finding that I'm getting repeat clients, and those clients are putting me on to just other guys. Whether it is just someone who's got a house somewhere, who's we've extended it, and maybe a competing neighbour or something's asked, who was the architect? If we done a good job on that, they'd be happy to recommend us. If we done a terrible job on it, obviously they wouldn't. So ultimately, the core really in getting your message out there is just doing a good job. Focus on your product. Never lose sight of being the best architect possible, delivering the best package, as I say, every single time. Don't turn your nose up at any type of job. Do the best job possible, and your name will soon get out there. And last but not least, hack number 14 is appreciate how good you've got it. I do find myself in a very privileged position, being my own boss, and obviously working on such good projects that you've obviously seen on our Instagram page. I just count myself so lucky, and that attitude translates into my design work. I'm not shy to maybe put an extra couple of hours in if I have to just hit these deadlines. And as I say, just other than the sort of cliche ambitions of being a professional athlete or a musician or what have you, I do think being an architect is the best job you can have. And I have come across some guys in my time who almost like took it for granted a little bit, like it was a job, it was just like a weekend job in a shop or something. You'll never go far with that attitude. You'll never be able to do the mundane tasks of the aforementioned door schedules and stuff. When you find yourself feeling grateful for being an architect, and as I say, feeling lucky with the projects that you're working on, it'll only benefit you in the long run. And they say, don't they, about before you die you should leave a legacy or something like that. And there's no better legacy really than designing a masterpiece and having it built. I mean, come on, how lucky is that to be in a position like that? And I suppose one thing I just want to finish on is a good friend of mine said something under the week as well, and it's really stuck with me. There's no such thing as a bad job. It's just a bad attitude. And I think just change your mindset. If you are doing a crap job like a door schedule or something, still try and appreciate how good of a position you find yourself in, and it'll just change your mindset, give you that little bit more positivity. And as I say, that'll only benefit you in the long run. The more positive you are seen in the office, it'll help you progress through that company, and ultimately, you know, you might find yourself in a position like myself where you can set up your own practice. As I say, I feel like I'm absolutely living a dream at the moment, so I totally recommend setting up your own practice. But in order to get to this position, you need to do the best job possible at all levels and in all facets of what we do. So thanks for watching. Hope I haven't took too much of your time out your day, and any questions, just leave them in the comments section. If you want to have a quick look at our library that I mentioned as well, I'll be happy to distribute that. I'm not greedy with any sorts of things. I was never one to hide my answers in exams and stuff like that. So if you want to tap into, you know, our library, our database and things like that, don't be shy. You know, our email is available on the Instagram page. So please get in touch, get involved, and yeah, we'll probably do a few more of these. So keep in touch, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.